All right. So they've swept the Pirates. Now, let's bring on the fish.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's. This is the podcast where we talk about your Oakland A's as many days out of the year as we can do, and as long as we can all say, let's go Oakland. This is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please, I'm begging you, call me Sully. I've been a baseball podcaster for over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here at the Locked On Podcast Network, where I am normally the host of Locked On MLB, which is the flagship show covering the entire league. Well, this year I'm also covering the Oakland A's as they play, sadly, their final year in the East Bay. And guess what isn't sad, though? Their performance on the field. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monopoly Go. Game off. We got to talk about Monopoly Go. It's a fast-paced game that lets you team up with friends for tournaments and unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go, now free on Google Play and the App Store. Now, come on. Let's, by the way, if you listen to us every day, we're going to get a sense of us there every day. Post a comment down here on YouTube or at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram, or I'm your pal Sully at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram, and use that hashtag EverydayA's as we get a sense of who's listening in. I'd like to know who's listening in. Hey, look at I've said this before, and I said it again when I decided to take over the Locked On A's show as a way to sort of see the way to just make sure that someone is covering this team during an eventful year. Hey, I thought this was going to be a bit of a chore because we all thought this was a 110 loss team. 110 losses, not playing well in the field, nobody in the stands was going to be it was just going to be bad. But lo and behold, hey, they're winning. They're winning games. John 042, who is an everyday A's listener, writes, early one today, A's Nation gets the brooms out. I'm all over it with a green and yellow heart. Nice little run up to the Yankee as well. Life could be good when baseball gods give baseball everyday A's. That's right. And Save the People 2004 says, I'm a lifelong Giants fan, and the A's have simply been the better watch so far. Though, just wait till the Giants call up Casey Schmidt, because I think that'll be a different story. But, this has been a very fun team to watch. And as we pointed out, after the Cleveland Indians swept the A's, they have been winning. They played 4 games against the Yankees and won 2 of them. They played 3 games against the Baltimore Orioles and won 2 of them. And they played 3 games against the Pirates and they won all 3 of them. That's 7 wins and 3 losses. That's playing 700 ball for a stretch after the sweep. And while it is too early to point to the standings and everything like that, remember the whole sort of caveat of, if you take away the games against Cleveland, this would be a winning ball club. Well, they're inching towards taking away that caveat. Their record right now is 15-17. You do know that, right? That they are about to play the Miami Marlins. Now, lots of teams have been staring at the A's and saying there's going to be an easy win. So I shouldn't be saying, oh, the Marlins are going to be an easy win. But let's just say they just swept the Pirates. And they don't mind going for the jugular, which I love, bringing in Miller on the verge of a sweep and what wasn't a save situation, but knowing, hey, they're not going to play tomorrow. He's going to be rested anyway. Let's go for the sweep. Let's go for the jugular. If they sweep the Marlins, they will have a winning record in May. If they go 2-1, then they will be only one game under 500. This is fun, and it's May. It's no longer April. It's not like, well, they went 2-1 to start the season. No, we're now into the second month, and you can absolutely start to look at your team and everything once we get to June. So let's see what we got. But let's go over the game today because it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. First of all, let's give a big shout out to Mr. Ross Stripling, who has not put. I'm not a big fan of the wins and loss stat because I really don't think that tells you anything about how well a pitcher pitched. I mean, you could pitch poorly and get a win. You could pitch brilliantly and get the loss, or you can get the no decision, like those two pitchers of the Mariners Braves game that were throwing a double no hitter and neither got a decision. But the last time Ross Stripling got a win was October 1st, 2022. The last week of the regular season, he got a win. And so he hasn't put anything down in that column since then and until today. And even though I don't care for the win stat, I don't think it tells you anything. Good for him. Good for him to get off the schneid on that, as everyone's contributing. And when you take a look, they Priester pitched for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he actually didn't pitch badly. He pitched 6 innings, let up 3 runs. Only 2 of them were earned. He let up too many base runners. He let up 9 base runners. But the interesting thing for me was most of the scoring for the A's came by way of the home run. Toro got another home run. He's been playing quite well, thank you very much. And Phil Nevin hits another home run. It feels like Phil Nevin should have more than 4 homers, doesn't it? Doesn't it seem like all the highlights have been Nevin hitting home runs? I was like, he must have more than 4. But that's one of the things that, Nevin is, he is batting. He has the highest average, so one of the better OPSs on the team. But when you take a look at like some of the stats, and I say, wait, Butler has a sub 600 OPS, and Bleday is batting 238 and is not a great OPS, and Langoliers is batting 170 with not a good OPS, and Seth Brown is batting under 200, and wait a minute, I thought these guys were playing well. But the thing is, they get the hits when they need it. They get the hits big time when they need it. Abraham Toro, another home run. And you're seeing this team putting together rallies, not wasting outs, and, as always, the bullpen. That's the thing about this team that is reminding me of a team that A's fans don't particularly like, which is the 2014 Kansas City Royals, who beat the A's in one of those heartbreaking games. God, I can't believe that was 10 years ago. But that Royals team had a good pitching staff and a good lineup, but their bullpen was airtight. And once you had a lead in the 6th inning, that game was over. And they carried that into the next year, the year they won the World Series championship. Well, take a look at what's going on today. Stripling pitched well. They gave him 6 innings, but they also knew that there was going to be a day off, so they were able to empty out the pen. McFarland pitched well. Adams walked 2 batters. He didn't do great, but Jimenez pitched 2/3 of an inning. Kelly pitched 1/3 of an inning. Miller, once again lowered his ERA and pitched beautifully. And the 7th inning ended with Adams striking out Brian Reynolds with in a big bases loaded spot, and that was a clutch moment. And you see that's what this A's team does. They play smart baseball. They get that lead early. If they have to stretch the starting pitcher out a little bit, they do, but then they rely on that pen and they get the hit when they need it. And they're going to be going up against a team that really, what's the word I'm looking for? Sucks. This Marlins team is 7-24 going into today. And they piled up a couple of wins recently because they were playing the Colorado Rockies, who also stink up the storm. And this is a big weekend coming up because, believe it or not, an actual meaningful series is right around the corner. And not meaningful just for sentimental reasons, meaningful for a team that, yeah, may be thinking of something more than just a long, painful goodbye. It's NBA and Stanley Cup playoff time, and baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is the place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, that's America's #1 sportsbook. All right, game off. We got to pause here and talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag the play. You've already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. Look in Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for timed tournaments where you can work together to build each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much to get. Unique stickers that you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with, hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings and heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or a robot Penchico machine. I don't know what I just said. And there's always new timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win, or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it for free on Google Play or on the App Store. All right, game on. Hey, sports fans, I have the place for you to go, your new destination for all your sports info. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring the biggest stories with Locked On's crew. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube and the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. All right, listen to me right now. It is critical for the A's to win the series against Miami. It would be great if they swept them so they had a winning record. But at least take 2 out of 3. At least take 2 out of 3 on that. Now, I know you think it's crazy to think in terms of importance of a series, but this is potentially the last chance ever for the Oakland A's to find themselves in a position of legitimate contention. I want you to hear me out. They are going to be playing the Miami Marlins for 3 games at home. I will be there on Saturday, May the 4th. So if anyone is going to be there on the May 4th game in Oakland, just send me a message. Actually, do what the best thing to do, if you follow me on Twitter or whatever the hell it's called now, there it is. There's my handle. Follow me at Sully Baseball and just say, I'm going to be there. You've seen the crowds. We can find each other. There's room to walk around. So let me know. Let me know if you're around and we can say hello. Maybe you can, I'm going to have my camera with me and I'm going to be doing a show from the stadium. So maybe you can be on the latest episode of Locked On A's. Let me know. So, but they have to win that series because Texas will be playing. Texas is going to be playing the Kansas City Royals. The Royals are a good team, and the Mariners are going to be playing the Houston Astros, and the Astros are a 20-loss team right now. They're in last place right now. They're behind the Angels, who are a big pile of stink. If the Astros lose that series, then they'll dig deeper in the hole, and you'll see the Angels and the Astros are floundering, and any day you could stay ahead of them is great. If the Astros wake up and win, and the A's win their series, they can chip away at the lead. Okay. And we all got to be rooting for the Royals to beat up the Rangers, the world champion Rangers, a little bit. Why am I going through this so much? Because as of this recording, the A's are, say it with me, 2.5 games out of first place. 2.5 games. They are a game and a half out of second place. If they win those games against the Marlins, then then they won't lose any ground to Seattle or to Texas. Okay, fine. Guess who they play next? After Miami, they play 4 games against the Texas Rangers and then 3 games against the Seattle Mariners in Seattle. In other words, if they win the series against Miami and then hold their own against Texas and hopefully win that series in Seattle, the A's could be in mid-May about a game out of first place. They could be looking at trying to get through that point where you're getting to Memorial Day and actually be in contention. This is not something any one of us thought was going to happen this year. This was supposed to be the completely depressing, like last hour of Forrest Gump, sort of everything bad happening in the world type of season for the Oakland A's. That's what we all thought was going to happen. That not only were they going to be bad off the field, but the product on the field was going to be a joke. I'm not expecting big, huge crowds. I'm going to be there, and I know everyone who's there is going to be enjoying something great. I get it. I'm not expecting lots of attention. I'm not even expecting a winning season from this year. But if they can show up and give A's fans in Oakland one more shot of contention, one more summer where they're going, I believe in this team. I have a ticket for the final game in Oakland, which is going to be in late September. What if that wasn't the last game in Oakland? What if they make it to a wild card series? It's not that outlandish. The Angels are not going to contend. We're in a division with 5 teams. The Angels are not doing piddly-poo. They're already awful. They're going to lose Mike Trout for a giant chunk of the season. They're not going to do anything. There is a possibility once we get to the first third of the season, we can look up and go, is this it for the Astros? Is this really it for the Astros? You got to hope that happens because I got a bunch of games against the Astros coming out where they can give them the nice old roundhouse punch to the face. But if they lose the series to the Marlins and the Rangers and the Mariners kick their butts, well, then that is probably going to send them spiraling to a post-500 record, and they may not get up from that for the rest of the year. But because they're playing so well, the possibility of finding a team in contention into June is going to be entirely predicated over the next bunch of weeks. You got the Marlins, and they should be awful. They should be beatable. The Rangers, Mariners, Astros, and Royals are coming up next, and that is a gauntlet. But you will notice none of those teams play in Cleveland. Then Colorado, which you should be able to win that series. Houston then stops in. Then comes the confusing Tampa Bay Rays. If they get to that point of the year, that would take you right through the end of the month. If they're still hovering around 500 at that point, then we can honestly look each other in the eye and say there may be more reason to go to this game than for sheer nostalgia. But first things first, they cannot take the Marlins lightly. They cannot take this as a series like, oh, everything's going to be hunky. And did I mention Dory? They have to win this series. Ideally sweep them so they are a winning team facing some of these other clubs. Not winning team if you remove the Cleveland games. I don't want to make Cleveland a factor in anything ever again with this club. And guess what? I don't think they play Cleveland again the rest of the year. Go fishing. Let's hear a little bit from our friends from Prize Picks, because this is the best time of the year to be a sports fan with the NBA playoffs and the Stanley Cup playoffs and baseball in full swing. And now you need to check out Prize Picks. It's America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You just pick more than or less than on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. And if you want to take full advantage of the NBA playoffs, you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks as you and the world's best players take the game at a new level during basketball's postseason. And you can have quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, an enormous selection of players and stat types are what make Prize Picks the #1 fantasy sports app. And they now offer Apple Pay for quick, easy deposits into your account this basketball postseason. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. You heard me right. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick now. Pick more. Pick yourself a winner. It's Prize Picks. And here's another reminder that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's available on the Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Let's go into the latest edition of I Bet You Forgot They Played on the A's. I need a catchy title for that. So someone please suggest me a title for this segment here before I run out. But then again, the A's have had so many players make weird cameos, I may not. Steve Sax. Remember Steve Sax? Steve Sax was a 5-time All-Star, mainly for the Los Angeles Dodgers. He came up as a big star with the Dodgers, Rookie of the Year in 1982, and it was his emergence that basically helped break up the famous infield. The Dodgers had an infield of Garvey, Lopes, Russell, and Say for a long, long time. But after winning the World Series in 1981, the Dodgers brought up Steve Sax, who was actually played on the World Series team in 81 as a reserve infielder, but suddenly allowed them to get a little bit younger. Sachs took over and became the National League Rookie of the Year in 1982, just barely edging out Johnny Ray of the Pittsburgh Pirates. He was an all-star, had tremendous seasons as a hitter. As a fielder, not so much. He had what was called the Steve Sax syndrome, had the yips, and basically sometimes had trouble making the throw from second base to first base. But eventually, he straightened that out and was part of the team that beat the A's in 1988. He later went to the Yankees in that period of time when George Steinbrenner seemed only enthralled by players on other teams and not his own. And he signed with the Yankees. And he was there. He had some good years with the Yankees, to be sure, but it was it just wasn't a fit. And the Yankees gave up on their beloved captain, Willie Randolph, to bring in Steve Sax. Sax had one very good year in New York in 1991, and that basically put him in a situation where he could appear as the second baseman in the classic Simpsons episode. But he was traded to the Chicago White Sox for a bunch of players. Had an okay year in terms of stolen bases, but couldn't really hit anymore with the White Sox. And by the time they went to the playoffs in 1993, Sax was basically an outfielder, utility player, and didn't even get into a single World Series game. And he was let go by the White Sox during spring training of 1994. Remember 1994? That was a dreadful year, 1994, because that was the year we did not have a World Series. But he was on the disabled list because of a heel issue. He was in rehab in Birmingham. 1994. Do you know who also played on Birmingham in 1994? Michael Jordan. I have not figured out if Michael Jordan and Steve Sax actually played together, but that was the team that Michael Jordan played on. And Steve Sax was rehabbing, and while I was there, the White Sox cut him, I guess to make room for Scottie Pippen. But he wound up signing with the A's and got to play with Tony La Russa, which was an example of someone who helped beat a team in the World Series and later joining them. Remember, Steve Sax was on deck when Kirk Gibson hit the famous home run in Game 1 of the 1988 World Series. His first game as a member of the Oakland A's was at the Oakland Coliseum, and he was facing Jimmy Key of the Yankees. That's right, he played against his former team. Sachs got a couple of hits and did not make an error, played second base. The A's lost the game 5-4. Jimmy Key got the start for the Yankees. Do you know who closed the game out? Jeff Reardon. I bet you forgot he was even on the Yankees. But Steve Sax' time with the A's was short-lived. And also that 2-hit performance in his first game with the A's was pretty much his highlight. He played 6 more games, collected 4 more hits, but then he got hurt again. And he wound up had surgery on, I can't remember if it was on his knee or something. It's not even listed on the little bio here. But he went surgery. He couldn't get back, and the A's released him during the strike. And when the strike ended and the lockout ended the next year, Steve Sax was done with baseball. Now, he's bounced around. I think he tried to run for some sort of seat in California politics. I think most ex-Dodgers do that one way or another. Steve Garvey ran for I think Congress here in California. And he's been a coach and he's been a host. But Steve Sax, beloved Dodger, who very briefly played for the A's as his career wound down. I bet you forgot he was on the A's. Hey, before we go, let's see what some people say. So, you know what? I'm going to do some, I don't know. Some people are writing some complimentary things to me, so I'm going to fan my ego. Gravity Fallout Pine says, love your show, Sully. Thank you for doing these. The A's might be quite the story of 2024. Hey, we're not that far from the 1/3 mark of the season, and the A's are holding their own, so why not? Hey, Paul Giza is an everyday A's. Thanks for listening to us. And Vic Tim, I just got it. Sometimes you got to say things out loud. Says, Sully, you are the GOAT. Love you, man. I notice GOAT is not capitalized, so I don't know if you're calling me the GOAT in the bad way or the good way. I'll take it either way. But actually, Gravity Fallout Pine says one last thing. Said, I also bought tickets to the game on September 26th. Yeah, that's the date. September 26th. I'll be there too. But now there's a tiny thought in the back of my head. I might have to get October tickets. Wouldn't that be something? Hey, Ethan Smith of Locked On Pirates is going to stop by the show tomorrow. He was originally going to be on the show today, but a scheduling conflict got in the way. And instead of waiting for it, do you know what? I decided to do this episode and then maybe bring Ethan in for the next one. But follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, whatever it's called now, on Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And make sure to also check out Locked On MLB, where you get to see me 5 days a week talking about all of Major League Baseball, not just the Oakland A's. But talk about the A's as they creep closer and closer to 500, something we didn't think we would be able to say in April, let alone May. This has been Locked On A's. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.